or how can we redo their photos for 5 times? I don't care if we have to redo photos 5 times. If they're going to look better, we're going to redo them and keep redoing them.
Today's episode is brought to you by my good friend Andy Bovender, the founder of the Bovender team out of the Carolinas. Him and his team have helped more than 5,000 families. So if you have that client who's been thinking about making a move to or from that area, they are absolutely the team to call. Today, I sit down with Trisha Cook, and she shares her recipe for success. Yes, pun intended. She shares how she's currently managing just shy of 50 transactions and what it takes to continuously deliver a 5-star level of service. With that, if you're curious to hang out with past guests like Trisha and many like her, and you want to pick their brain and learn from other highly successful agents and who knows, maybe even trade a referral or two, take a look at the link below for the Inner Circle group. It's a group that meets every other week, and we do just that. We get to hang out, share best practices, and learn and glean a little something from each other while also looking for those opportunities to share referrals. So that said, I'm your host and referral partner out of San Francisco, Shawn Kunkler. Trisha, thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I appreciate you carving out the time. You are incredibly busy, which we're going to talk about in a second. But something on our pre-conversation that I would love to go back to and just basically jump in from. You said that you have a promise when you work with sellers. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. It's not just with sellers, it's with buyers as well.
Fair.
So it's on our website. We train our staff to say it. We train our agents to say it. And it's in all of our presentations. And our promise to you is to deliver you 5-star service. We want to anticipate your needs. We want to treat you like, you're our family, you're our friend. We want to give you that great communication that most agents are known not to give, right? We want to be proactive and not reactive. You shouldn't have to call us for, updates on your showings and such. We should be the ones calling you. We should be the ones anticipating those next steps. And in return, and I didn't make this up. I just kind of adopted it. Another agent made it up, I'm sure, years ago. And in return, we hope that whenever you come across anyone that's looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you're going to refer them to us so that we can fulfill that promise to them and give them the same exceptional service. And sometime throughout the process, we hope that you're compelled to leave us a 5-star review. We have over 1,600 5-star reviews on all platforms. So we really love to dive into that because that's organic and that's how people find us.
It's interesting. I recently, a couple of years ago, adopted something similar, and in our system, and one of the very first, it's as soon as the client signs with us, it's similar. We aim to deliver a five-star level of service. If at any point during this experience you feel we deviate from that, please let me know immediately so we can course correct. And put it right up front that communication is key. And if they feel at any moment anything is a little slightly off, just raise your hand. But to your point, I think us being proactive and preempting these things is far, far, far more powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're human, so we do make mistakes.
Yeah.
But when we do put it out there and we are preemptive with it, they know that they can trust us to have that conversation with us throughout the process instead of feeling like we're going to hold it against them. And we want them to, and we ask them throughout the process. When I say we, I mean everyone from myself to our listing coordinator, our transaction coordinator, even our photographer. They're all trained to say, hey, are we delivering on our promise? Did Trisha tell you about our promise? And even at the closing table, we're asking them, did we deliver on our promise? Is there anything we could have done better? Awesome. Yeah. We hope that you will leave us this, 5-star review, et cetera.
That's really powerful to have your vendors even having that same communication. That's pro right there. That's next level.
Yeah, well, and it's not really a vendor because our photographer's in-house. But
no kidding.
Yes, yeah.
How many? I mean, you have 1,600 reviews, which is incredible, which you always have far less reviews than you actually do have closings. We know that. So kudos. That's a huge, huge number. But can you give us some scale and scope of the size of your team?
Sure. We serve Savannah, Georgia, Bluffton, Hilton Head, South Carolina, and so we have agent specialists in all of coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina. We kind of break that down based off of their location. There's 12 of us currently on the coastal Georgia, coastal South Carolina side, and then there's four of
Hmm.
us in upstate South Carolina, like Greenville, South Carolina. We have 4 agents there as well.
Wow, huge team. How many of your I can't speak today. I'm sorry. how how much support staff do you have for the agents?
We have 3 virtual assistants, 2 transaction coordinators, our photographer, our director of operations. We outsource certain little things, like social media and
Yeah,
such like that, that we're different companies. And we have one other kind of do it all.
fascinating. And what's your role within all of that?
The doer of all things. Uh,
The woman who
I'm
just gets stuff done.
I'm still I'm still a listing agent. We have multiple
Yeah,
listing agents on our team. I like to be in the trenches. Full transparency. I typically tell them at least once a week that my least favorite job is managing people. I want to be out there selling
same.
real estate. I feel like I'm a lot more powerful, either in the trenches selling real estate
Yeah.
or, going to agent events and trying to create relationships so that they can then get more agent referrals and such. Those are where I would really love to be.
Right.
Unfortunately, sometimes I am managing people still.
Hey, friends, I have a small favor to ask. For me to continue to bring you outstanding guests who share their best kept secrets for growing a successful real estate business, please take a moment and hit that like button so agents like you can find this content. And also hit that subscribe button now so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Now, back to our show. I know it's our roles are so tricky, especially as you start building, because you have to morph into roles that you don't love. In really good salespeople, I think we're good at getting people to like us, and we're good at like entering that conversation. But then managing is a whole different skill. It's a whole different mindset. It's a different approach. It's a totally different. It's a different beast altogether.
And it's much easier to keep a client happy for a few months than it is to
Yeah.
keep the same people happy for years. That's
Well said. I mean, that's 100% true. Um, yeah, it's very true. Like I can, it's very easy for me to keep a client, stay on top of them for 3 months, and then I mean, if you're doing a finance closing, it's only 30 days. It's very manageable, very doable. Um, I want to talk about 2 things: your referral mindset and building relationships with agents. But then I also want to talk about something you said right before we hit record, that you view basically everybody like a client. You said, I view clients as clients, I view agents as clients. I would love to just unpack your mindset around that.
yeah. So my sales manager actually helped me with this earlier this year. And you always think about how are we touching our past clients and how are we touching our leads. And as far as like 36 touch and all of the normal things that people talk about, like events and such. But what are you doing for your team? What are you
Yeah.
doing for other agents, not only referral agents, but in your market to make them want to work with you and want to sell your listings? What are you doing for all of them? Because they are all your clients, right? And that's that whole collaborate without ego thing that
Yeah.
Compass talks about, right? Everybody's your client. And if you're a terrible co-broke agent, do you think anybody's going to want to transact with you? They don't. So you have to look at that too. How am I bringing value to them? So we have a business plan. Basically, it is just like a Google Drive sheet, a Google Doc sheet with different tabs, and it talks
Mm,
about quarterly, how are we, what are we doing on more of a mathematical level to reach these people and touch them. And of course, when you run a team, you also want to recruit, and so being a good co-broke is pretty important on all those
yeah.
fronts.
Yeah, it's interesting. A friend of mine, Grant, brought up the same thing when he was saying his strategy on recruiting agents. He's like, they're clients, and it's similar to you. I was like, oh, like the little aha moment happened, and he said you need to nurture them and follow up with them and touch base with them and see how they're doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that totally makes sense. And then when you parlay that into literally any other relationship, like how does a relationship with your good friend get better? Well, touching base, seeing how they're doing, hanging out with them, going to dinner. It develops through time. And similarly, funny enough, I have collected the past guests, a lot of past guests the from all doing all of these recordings, and we actually have a mastermind group. And funny enough, Tim Angel, who just sings your praises up and down, yesterday we were talking about swag and giveaways and things that are memorable, and I actually brought up your name because I have sitting on my desk your chapstick that I'm like, oh my god, I think of Trisha like literally every day when I pick up my chapstick and I like use it. um those are all touches, like, and sometimes they don't happen when we even know about them. And so I just, yeah, I think there's so many ways to crack that nut, either directly or indirectly, and going to events and going to retreats and texting somebody and saying hi and seeing how they're doing.
And going deep with it and not just going wide with
Yeah,
it. Tim is one of my favorite people, and I've actually spoke to him twice today. He's great. And
yeah,
we talk about that, and how he can remember everyone's name, and basically remember their dog's name. He's so good with that, and I have to be intentional about it. But I think it's, yeah, he's also younger, but I think it's normal for
there's
him.
that.
He's just that, that talented with it. But
Yeah,
going deep with it is very important for me.
it's funny. I do two recordings in one day, and the previous recording before yours this morning was with Candy, who's a sales manager, and we were basically talking about, to tap into a market, you really want to know a lot of things about what that client base is interested in. And so if you're talking about trying to tap into, say, luxury next to a golf course, you should pretty much know luxury content, clothing, brands, and you should be super familiar with golf, aside from being a proficient with the the properties that are on the market, off the market, what materials they're using, what type of marble it is. And so that's a level of going deep in advance, where you meet somebody, you can have an engaging conversation with them, and you can also go super deep immediately based on something that they're exuding or talking about.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And it's a skill. I mean, I think it's like anything else. It's just being able to connect with people. Like you get this superficial connection, but to your point, if you can just take it that level deeper, it it just speeds up the process.
Yeah, I agree. And always coming from some level of contribution is, like,
Mm.
I think is key. I sent out a quarterly referral agent newsletter, for instance, and I never just and like, look at me, I am your person in coastal Georgia and coastal South Carolina. No, it's more of a, this is a great little tip that you can use for marketing. These are things that you can use to train your team, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I get a lot of feedback on that, which is great. And I'm trying to come, like, I don't want to spam you with anything. I want to make sure that you're getting something great.
Yeah. I You're preaching to the choir, and I love that mindset, and I love that it's you're actually helping somebody. It's not about you, it's about them. That was the whole point of this podcast. I mean, and I've said it before, and I'm point blank with it. This is a marketing tool for me. This is a referral opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to sit down with you and for an hour, which we usually don't get to do with colleagues, and I get to learn about you. I learn about your perspective, how you built your team, your mindset, your thought process behind that. I understand how you care for clients. And so now we have a working relationship. And so if I have that client moving to Georgia, I can think, oh, who would be a good fit? Oh, they're these people really need a lot of handholding, and I want to make sure they're well. Boom! I already know who I'm going to call, and that's an easy way for us to do this. And then simultaneously, the newsletter goes out to 15-ish thousand agents. I can't send a newsletter every week saying, "Hey, look at me, I'm awesome. Do you have a referral?" It's instead the agents are the star of the show. And hey, listen to this conversation with Trisha. She shared these amazing tips about X, Y, and Z. Figure out how to implement them into your business and get the same results. And so it's the same that same mindset. It's about them, not us.
Yeah, for
How
sure.
many? I'm super curious now because of your scale. Um, how many segments of marketing do you have going out? That's a
How many?
lot just based on that
Yeah,
size.
yeah. That's uh, marketing consumes almost my every thought in one way, shape, or form.
Really?
Um, and you know, I think that's just part of my personality assessment is how. Not only am I thinking of how can we serve an agent in that newsletter that goes out, or when I'm sitting down and having a conversation with them, or if I'm sending out my weekly co-broke email with, you know, just listed, here's our open houses. I also same thing for them. You know, here's 50, you know, tax tips for realtors or whatever that looks
Yeah.
like. But also, you know, we have 42 active listings, like I shared earlier,
Oof.
17 of those being mine. And then we have other listing agents as well. How can we best serve our clients? So marketing is constant, right? And of course, it's not just a Facebook or an Instagram post. There's what about
Yeah.
the digital marketing? What do their houses look like? How can we rearrange their photos, or how can we redo their
Yeah.
photos for 5 times? I don't care if we have to redo photos 5 times. If they're going to look better, we're going to redo them and keep redoing them. You know, those
Yeah.
type of things.
I love that mindset. I'm such a perfectionist too. I had a property that was it was just beautifully positioned in San Francisco on the hill, and I was adamant, hell bent on getting a great sunset shot from the living room. And my photographer went there. I think she went there 5 or 6 times, and every time she showed up, it was foggy. And so I was like, "Go back tomorrow. Go back tomorrow." And I was like, It's fine. I'm keep a running tap. Like, charge me at the end for your time. I no problem with that." But we wound up getting just an incredible, beautiful shot because I knew that was the money shot. I knew that was the opening marketing piece. I know that's the scroll stopper. When somebody sees it, they're like, "Oh my god!" Like, I have to see the rest of this property. And I think not everybody goes into it with that same mindset.
No, I can tell you from running a team with different listing agents, they do not have the same mindset. So keeping them on, we call it the recipe because my last name is Cook, so it's the cookbook, right? We have our different recipes.
Love it.
And keeping them on the recipe that if there's 4 cups of sugar, there's 4 cups, not 3.5, not 4.5. It's you please use the same recipe. That's so tough. And of course, all of it reflects back on you in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
So you want them to follow the recipe.
Do you have? It sounds like you have a lot of systems, but do you have an actual play? Let me rephrase the question. For each of these components, do you have a recipe book?
We have checklists for a checklist for a checklist, and
Uh,
SOPs, you know, so standard operating procedures for our staff side, right? So we have a lot. Do we have it in even events? We have a whole playbook for events on
yeah.
exactly what time of year, who to call, etc. So yeah, we
Yeah.
do. We have a lot of systems.
I mean, I think that's first of all always a hallmark of a successful agent is having a systems and process in place. Period. But to your point, you can't improve something if you're not 100% sure what the hell you did in the first place. Like a recipe, you can make it and you can have an amazing cookie, but if you didn't write anything down, you'll never be able to make it again. Or if it comes across and you're like, it's like good, but it's a little too salty, but you don't know how much you put in. You can't do less. Like it's
Right.
got to be, it just has to be documented. And it's one of the, I would probably say systems and process checklists is the one thing that most underperforming agents are not doing, that every top performing agent is, they're beating the drum from the top of the mountain saying this is the thing that everybody needs to do.
Yeah, everyone's looking for that secret sauce, and that's probably it, right? Just have
Right.
your systems and checklists and basics like really fine
Right.
tuned. Because other than that, it's the same job. It's just who does it better.
Yeah, it's all nuanced. I mean, it's all, yeah, it's, I mean, it's like the framework is the same, like, but again, it's like learning from the past experiences and making the adjustments and then moving forward, and then simultaneously what works for you, what works in your market, what matches and what's on brand with you. It's just nuanced at that point. I mean, you even mentioned earlier you are using a download from a coach. I'm sure you're going to make tweaks to it, but the wireframe is coming from a third party.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So with Compass One check, like the new checklist coming out, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we're fortunate enough to have all of that, for the seller timeline, buyer timeline, even price reduction timeline,
Yeah.
under contract, of course, is kind of what seller and buyer open houses. So it's more of a digital platform for our recipe books or our checklists that we're using. And I think the best part about it is that your clients can also see what you're doing with that.
Which I think is huge. The transparency component is, when people don't know what's happening, when clients don't know what's happening to their largest investment, that's when they get nervous. And if they're reaching out with you with a question, it's not an actual question, it's their fear. It's their anxiety is starting to rear its head. And so, to your point earlier, if we're not preemptively getting in front of that, it's going to derail incredibly fast, especially if you have multiple challenges with the market, with that specific property, with the feedback it's receiving. It's going to derail so fast.
That's a really good point. I've never thought about that they're reaching out to you with their fears, but that's brilliant. I was thinking we can start to feel like if they're reaching out too much that it's they're annoying, but it's probably just their fears. And so if you get in front of it, the more you get in front of it, the better.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of, I mean, we've all been doing this long enough where you meet with somebody and you can usually get a sense right out of the gate if their temperament is more anxious. And so what I do with those clients is I let them know right up front, like, hey, just reach out to me anytime, shoot me a text. I'm happy to respond. Otherwise, you're going to always hear from me on Tuesday and Thursdays. And here's what you're going to hear. And I kind of like set the stage. And then I do my best to just think about what questions are they going to have and just front load those and make sure they're not. Yeah. Yeah. I think to your point is, it's easy to do. It's easy to label a client like, oh, they're annoying the hell out of me, like they're pinging me every 5 minutes. But then it's, if we enter their world and approach it from like an empathy, a place of empathy, it's like, oh, they're probably really anxious, they're really nervous, like maybe they had another transaction that just blew up at the last minute, and so now they're doing everything they can to like hunker down and get in front of this stuff. And so, yeah, sometimes it's a it's it's the shift. But that's additionally having a checklist and us as agents not having to worry about the things that's happening next. That I find it frees up the bandwidth in my mind, where then I can look for the nuances and then be more empathetic, because now I personally don't have to worry. I know all this stuff's getting taken care of. I know the photography scheduled. I know everything's on point, but now I can just really focus on the client and just, I can hear it in their tone, or I can see it in the way they look, like, hey, it seems like you're really stressed out right now. Is there anything I can help you with?
Right. Well, if you think about, most agents are people, right? And we want to be in front of people. We are really good when you put us in front of people. And so
Yeah,
if we're bogged down on all of getting all of the back end things done, then you have less time to be in front of the people. But if you have your
yeah,
checklists in place and you know exactly what needs to be done next, and especially if you're fortunate enough to have a team to help you. And
yeah,
when you have a system like what we're building now, we can see what is and isn't done by all people at all time. And it just
yeah,
really helps for somebody to jump in and finish what's next, or for us to hold them accountable to doing it themselves.
yeah,
We and our clients will hold us accountable as well, because they know what's happening next, because it's viewable.
yeah. I mean, it's uh, yeah, it's for some funny reason my brain immediately went to when I used to train in kung fu. And when I was training by myself, I'd be like sloppy and tired and lazy. But then as soon as an instructor or the head instructor walked in, it was like everything tightened up. Like immediately, I was like, oh man, I'm being watched. And so I did everything like 10 times harder, more focused. And the same thing. It's like when you know a client is watching and looking at your checklist, you are for sure going to be more attentive to that thing. Not to say that you weren't otherwise, but you're now just going to make sure the show is to give them the confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you that when you said that, it actually reminded me when I put my husband into a joint bank account. I was like, ah, I guess I better watch all that Starbucks. So, you know, you're accountable to someone else at some point, and you can make it, viewable or not viewable to the client on our real estate side, and we choose to make a lot of it viewable on purpose so they can see
Yeah.
what's next.
Which again, I feel like in my experience, 90% of the time the clients are never going to look at it. But it's that very small percentage who does, you're scratching their itch and they're not going to bother you because they can see exactly what you're doing, when you're doing it, and who's doing it. And so there's no reason to reach out of for any reason for anything of hey, were the windows getting cleaned? Oh, I could see on the list they were done last week. Oh, I know that doorknob was broken. I really wish somebody fixed it. Oh, I can see it's actually repaired right here.
Well,
It's
and
it
you can make it so as much as detailed as you want if you have the time. And we're all a
Yeah,
little bit slower right now, so you have the time before we speed back up to make those processes so good that you can
yeah,
add videos and such. And so we're now, that's part of it, is I'm recording videos of, hey, did my agent tell you about the promise? This is what our promise is, and so that way
yeah.
I know that even if the agent did it, they're still getting it. And it can give them those reminders, those personal touches, without me personally calling every client, which I think is great.
And you bring up an additional point, and it's a little bit more nuanced, but I would love to just shed light on it. Is when things are busy, you just work on servicing your clients and you're running crazy hard and fast, and that's just the nature of the beast. But when things slow down, that's when you focus. Let me go back. When things are moving fast and going crazy, you just make notes of what's breaking or what's broken. Don't worry about fixing it. But then when things slow down, the market slows down, interest rates spike, you go into the winter of the market, take all those notes out, and that's when you fix all that stuff of hey, like when it sped up, this is what was breaking. And that's how your systems, and it sounds like this is all you guys are doing, is that's when your systems get tighter. That's when those those things that were giving the client a perceived, let's say, 4.6 star, now you can get them to a 4.9 or a 5 or even above that. It's like, and even if it wasn't, it was just like, to the client, it just wasn't awesome, it was good. And it's like, okay, how do you take it from good to great? And then you can take it to awesome after that. But there's seasons and you have to pull back sometimes to be able to see those pieces, which it sounds like you and your team do extremely well.
I always say, if we're not busy, we're busy trying to get busy. And so, that, because when we
Yeah,
are slower, that's exactly what we're focusing on. How do we improve the next system? And, there's always room for improvement on
yeah,
something. And just, you have an event and it's a successful event, you do well, fantastic. How can we make it even better next
Yeah.
time? What are what's we do a SWOT analysis around it and just try to figure out, well, what are our
Smart.
opportunities?
And I mean, that's you're a perfectionist, so I'm preaching to the choir, but that's the way you get better, and that's the way you take pressure off of you for the next time, and it makes the team understand these are the things we're measuring and we're looking, and they're not always tangible, but then it's the next time the team knows that we need more food if we're having this many people, or we need X, Y, and Z, and that thing gets improved, and that's where I find that's the joy that I get out of it. It's like how do we go back and look at these pieces and then make them better the next time?
I agree.
Because you can't stop. Like it doesn't. It's waves on the beach. Like you're not stopping them. You just have to acknowledge the wave came. You got crashed on. Just figure out for the next. Just keep figuring it out and moving forward. Um, I'm. It's impressive to have. I don't remember the specific number. 47 active
40,
listings
42, 42 active listings.
and at 42 stuff breaks. Like that's just if you jumped to that level, if you grew to that level, you can mitigate it and go faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, and those are not new construction builders. Those are 42, different clients most of the time that you have to talk to and have to,
Yeah,
keep happy. So luckily, I don't have to talk to each one of them, but
yeah,
ultimately, overall, we want to make sure that they still have the same streamlined process.
yeah. I mean, and that's when you start replicating. That's how you get to that level. So, which is impressive. I don't know if I can handle that. I mean, where San Francisco is a 7 mile by 7 mile footprint. I don't think I'll ever have 40 simultaneously.
Well,
Never say
you,
never.
I used to have a goal when I was only doing listings. Well, not that well, 5 a week, 5 listing appointments a week. Well, I've always said your job every day as a realtor is to make an appointment, and don't go home
Yeah,
until you make an appointment. And if ultimately at the end of the day you haven't made an appointment with a client, make an appointment with a vendor and do something,
yeah,
but do something productive and have at least 5 appointments. So I would push myself to 5 appointments every single week. And even
crazy.
back then, I'd never had more than 20 listings. So that the market and the inventory and things are sitting a lot longer now. So it is a different beast. Even I was licensed in
Yeah.
07, 08, 09. We never had this many listings. This is new to us, and so we have to, of course, go back, perfect our systems, go back to basics, and make sure that everybody gets that same level of service.
Yeah, and I mean, and to your point, it's always a new day, right? It's you've never had this many simultaneously, and then simultaneously, we've never been in this type of market before. This is a new market for everybody. So then there's a new system because it's new conversations that we need to communicate and educate our clients on. And a year from now, 6 months from now, it could be a completely different. It's a new puzzle to solve, and that's where those systems they're never done. There's always like a little bit extra, there's a little bit of modification that needs to happen to make sure we're constantly evolving with this thing.
Right. And even if you're the typical realtor that hates systems and sitting in front of a computer and such, once you get these initial ones set up, it's going to be so much easier for your
Yeah.
life. It's just about getting everybody bought into that, doing it.
You know, it's funny. I was that agent who was like, I'm not following a checklist. I'm not doing that. And then I, I don't know. It was maybe like a year, 2 years in ish. And I remember waking up at like 3 in the morning going, oh, shit, did I send that disclosure? So I'd have to like email myself. And then maybe a year later, I hired my first assistant. And then her and I we started to do a checklist for listings. And then I realized that I stopped waking up in the middle of the night because I didn't have to worry if that thing was getting done. I knew it was on the list and I knew at some point in the process it would get done. And what that allowed me to do is to take a breath and then relax my mind and then be creative and walk into the property and go, okay, what is going to be the money shot here? And how do I have the copy written in a way that caters to the client who I feel would be attracted to this property? And I can take a much more creative approach to the sales process because I don't have this looming pressure of trying to remember 107 steps and where we're at and who's doing what and scheduling and worrying about all this other stuff. But prior to, I was like, nah, I don't need these stupid checklists. They're ridiculous.
I think that's a good point. It allows you to be more proactive than reactive. You know, you're not
Yeah.
in the office. You're in your strength zone, which is why they hired you in the first place.
Right. Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's like, let's go back to a cookbook. And if you're cooking Thanksgiving dinner and you have 20 different dishes for all your guests and you have everything at a different point in process, you have to know, did I add those 3 cups of sugar to this or did I not? Because it's either going to come out great or horrible.
Right. Exactly.
And so, yeah, I'm a huge fan. And I feel like from this podcast, it's other agents like you who are highly successful have pushed it back on me so much that I have become like a raving fan of like build a checklist. Everything you do is a checklist, just get it down on paper.
Yeah. It's, I always say everything's a math problem one way or another. You know, if you treat it like a math problem, then it'll all work out. And I'm not a math nerd by any means, but just, you know, I definitely believe that all of that matters. And it's just, it all builds on each other. You just have to have your basics down, and your checklists are
Yeah.
where that starts.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think if it's into the mindset of it's a math problem, it it implies that it could be solved.
Exactly.
Which, as soon as you then give yourself permission to solve it, you then go into a resourceful mindset to like maybe I don't have the answer, but somebody sure as heck knows how to solve this thing,
Right.
and that then becomes the art of hiring, which that is my number one worst thing that I'm at in ever.
You don't like hiring?
It's not that I don't like hiring. I'm a salesperson. I want you to like me. And so I'm not worried about if you're qualified for the job. I'm just trying to win you. I'm trying to sell you. And so it makes me the absolute worst person to interview anybody in that setting.
I get that. I feel that. I'm the worst at letting someone go.
That
I'll
one's
keep them
hard.
forever. Yeah. I had a coach one time tell me, well, you know, after I had to let someone go for something pretty terrible, he's like, well, at least I know you have one standard. And I was like, oh, ouch. Yeah. So I fall in love with the person, and then I want to fit them into a box. Right.
Yeah. Mine is like, I've worked with people a little bit too long too. And I feel like I feel like the gambler at the slot machines. Like if I just put in one more coin, I'll win. And like just give me one more, like let me just put one more in, one more in. So I'm like chasing bad money with more money. And I always feel like, oh, this person can turn around. Like tomorrow we can get them they'll turn around. And they just never turn around. And it's hard for me to acknowledge that somebody doesn't want to turn around.
Yeah.
That's hard for me.
Right. They don't have the same goals as you.
Yeah, and it's sometimes I forget that. I forget they have their own world, their own agenda, and they don't actually want to necessarily get better or achieve in this thing, and that's fine. That's their journey. But I think I just overly wish that they want to go close a deal and get paid. Sometimes they don't.
Right.
What are you most hopeful for in the next? Right now, we're definitely going into the colder season. Just historically, the markets tend to slow down. But what are you looking forward to most in the spring season, the spring market?
You know, that's a good, really good question. interest rates getting in the fives would be really amazing. I think that the world would open up a lot. Um,
Yeah.
that as far as uh, every bit of it, and we always our sellers getting a little bit more realistic, and maybe them not thinking it's 2021 still. I don't know. Those are all good things. I don't know. The real
Hmm.
estate market, I think, is it's in Savannah in our area. It's still moving along. So we have a lot of things, a lot of industry here. So it
Hmm.
still moves, but we have so much inventory on the market that it feels very it feels taxing because we have new construction builders that are inflating things and such, with paying all of the interest rates down. I don't know if you have that in San Francisco or not, but probably
Mm-mm.
not. Yeah, it's a big problem. You have big builders that are buying interest rates down into the threes and paying all of the cost, and it's very tough for a normal seller to compete with
Holy jeez.
that. Yeah.
Is the product itself at a good rate, or are they making up the difference on the price per square foot?
So prices are staying inflated in new construction areas because of that, because they're paying $30,000 on some homes between paying all the buyers closing costs and buying the rates down.
Oh
So the
jeez.
prices look inflated. Of course, then other sellers think that they can get that for their homes, but they can't.
Oh.
Right. Yeah, so we have Lennar, DR Horton, Pulte, some big builders around here that basically buy interest rates in bulk, and so they can offer a 4% interest rate or 3.99% interest rate for the next couple of months or what have you for anybody that uses their lender type thing.
That's wild. Yeah, we don't have, not to that degree. Um that's really interesting. And then yeah, it bolsters those specific, that the price point around those, which then to your point gives the other sellers, the resellers, the perception the market's different than it actually is.
It does. And, I've closed a few buyers this year, which I don't typically close a lot of buyers, but I have closed a
Yeah.
few. I have relationships, so I'm keeping those relationships. And I always just tell them, like, if you're buying that builder home, like this, you've got a great product at a great interest rate. Your payments obviously amazing. You know all of the great things about it. But if you have to compete with that builder in the next couple of years, you're in trouble. So
Yeah.
make sure you're going into this with eyes wide open, because the builder has the deeper pockets to be able to offer $30,000 or $40,000 in concessions, or just take it off the price if they have to. Whereas
Yeah.
those, and that's always been the case. So that's a tough thing in a market when it's not just appreciating.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's for your side, that's a lot more educating and slowing down with the client to help them understand the nuances of what's actually happening within the macro and micro market of the neighborhood. That's fascinating. But I agree with you too with regards to the interest rates. I think we're in a weird holding pattern, and it the interest rate has to come down enough to where all those people who refinance and have a really crazy low rate, the delta has to be close enough for to incentivize them to move. And so until that happens, I think we're just going to sit in this weird stagnant spot that we've been in. It's
I
it's actually
agree.
pretty shameful that the government even pulled that one. I think that's one of the worst things they've done since 20 or 2008.
Yeah, I think if we got to a decent interest rate, then obviously these builders wouldn't have to keep their prices inflated. They'd probably actually come down on prices because their their buying of the interest rate would not be as attractive,
Yeah.
and some of the other sellers would start moving. So it would be a win-win because prices would probably come down. we'd be able to sell some of those houses. The interest rates would be bearable. We could
Yeah.
just figure out insurance. I don't know. Is insurance in California as crazy as it is on the East Coast?
It's a shit show.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a ton of insurance brokers who have straight up pulled out of California. And so we have problems. We have tsunami zones, we have flood zones, we have fire zones, and especially if a property's in multiple zones, good luck. And then additionally, um, we have properties in the city where if it has a brick foundation, brick doesn't hold up in earthquakes. Good luck getting insurance, getting a loan. If you have knob and tube, which is a vintage electrical, good luck getting. You can get insurance now, but you're going to pay through the nose. And then there's pockets where we've had fires roll through. You can't. It's like nearly impossible to get any insurance coverage. The whole insurance component, it's become so problematic in the area that there's an additional contingency added to the contracts where it's just baked in part of the contract. You can remove it if a buyer is inclined to, but it's now just part of the, like if you just sent a boilerplate contract, you have a 17-day insurance contingency written in. It's that
Wow.
bad.
Yours is way more of a shit show than ours.
It
And
totally
we
is.
thought ours was bad, right?
Florida's, I think, is probably beats us.
Mm. There's not a lot of earthquakes in Florida, but definitely a lot of hurricanes.
Yeah, Florida has my good friend Charles works down there, but the salt air destroys the concrete. And so if they're the HOAs, mostly with condos, if they're not staying on top of it, there's a real risk of crumble. And thus the insurance companies don't want to build a building to get lost. And so it's a whole different problem. The other problem that I've recently started running into is the Fannie Mae changed the minimum insurance coverage on condos in San Francisco minimally. It's a very small adjustment, but all the not all, most of the buildings that I've then worked on don't have the new coverage. And so the lender won't loan on it unless there's coverage. So most of the recent properties that I've had loans on, we're running into a problem where we can't get funding.
Mm.
It's
Do you have
fun.
any? Yeah, that's yeah. It feels sometimes it feels like it's coming at you in multiple facets all at once, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, we got to fix the interest rates, and we have to fix the insurance. Yeah, yeah. And then we have a lot of build to rent communities that things such as there's always something, I guess. That's
But
why we
I
pivot.
think on the flip side is, especially from these conversations, the agents who just kind of they don't make it worse than it is. They don't make it better than it is. They just acknowledge, like, hey, this is happening. The decoupling, it's happening. Like, you're not stopping, it's happening. What do I need to do? I need to educate myself. Great. And then it's just they, like, the insurance thing, total fiasco. What do I need to do? I need to educate myself. Boom. And they just, there's a different, I've found a different mindset of those succeeding on a high level where they have a really powerful ability to observe, just observe, see how things are operating, see how the client's interacting with the experience of the team or whatever it may be, and then they make decisions based on that observation. And it's not good, it's not bad, it's just, this isn't working, let's fix it. And there's just a certain different, like, mindset attitude that I have found to be patternistic.
I agree. They move fast.
Yeah, it seems like, and you have to, if you're running that many listings simultaneously and the market shifting and you're trying to figure out, you have to, like, there's no there's no resting on your laurels and there's no dwelling. It's just keep moving.
Right. We have to shift with whatever the market's throwing at us. And it's certainly a different market today than it was even 6 months ago or a year ago, much
Yeah.
less, 2020, 2021. Well, we have been gone through it, haven't we? Good, bad,
Yeah.
and indifferent.
Yeah, I mean, if you just kind of step back, the past 5 years, we've seen some of the most radical. How many times have we heard this is unprecedented? I mean, it's wild how many times we have heard it. We've seen some crazy stuff. And so I think if agents are thriving currently, they're fine. They'll be fine. Like, it's like pick your favorite team, football, whatever. If that team always plays on a crazy muddy field, on a sunny day, they're just going to be amazing all-stars. And I feel like we've been playing on the muddiest of muddy fields for years. And like when we come out of this, the people who have really focused on the systems, the process, keeping their head down, moving forward, they're just going to thrive. So,
It's a good analogy.
yeah. This was fun. We're at time, but I look forward so much to just stay connected with you and see what you're doing with your business and with your team in the future.
Well, thanks, Shawn. You too.
And that is a wrap.